Hi, folks. This is Yoga Matt of Yoga Matt Speaks. This is for every parent in the country. This is for the grandparents. You have to listen. Does it surprise anyone that these serious problems are occurring, these shootings in schools? Does it surprise anyone that we have crime all over the country? It shouldn't surprise anyone. Why should we ever have to talk about this stuff? But we do. So the parents have to listen. We become a country where money is more important than life itself. We become a country where wearing status symbols is more important than life itself. We become a country where a $4 or $5 or $6 or $7 or $1 million home is more important than life itself, with two $80,000 cars in the driveway. And if you think I'm exaggerating, I'm not. We've become a country where buying gifts and flooding children with gifts for Christmas or period is going to solve these problems. It's not. Please put this video out. Send it to everybody you know. I'm doing my darndest. I've been talking about this for years and years and years. I wrote a book called The Woman and the Warrior by Yoga Matt. I've been addressing this stuff for so long, but people don't want to listen because money is more important. Stuff is more important than life itself. So where do we begin? Why is all this happening? Well, if you watch all my videos, you start to get an idea what the heck is going on. Another shooting in a school. Why? A girl yet? I've been talking about, I expect this to increase with girls. I really do. I've been talking about that for years, so it doesn't surprise me. We know most of the shootings and most of the problems are boys, but it's going to increase with the girls. Why? Let's start with this. Divorce. The family is the foundation of a society. If you read my book, The Woman and the Warrior by Yoga Matt, and you have to look it up by Yoga Matt with 2 T's, you will start to discover what the heck is going on here. Secondly, the woman is the energy aspect of the Lord. That's who she is. In the Bible and in places it says a supportive role. Well, you want to stick your fingers down your throat, don't you, ladies? What do you think? Throughout history, they didn't know anything? Now, I understand if you now are divorced or if you have a child and there was never a marriage, and I understand nobody wants to take responsibility, you do the best you can. But if you are married and you're so busy making money that you have no time for your children, what do you expect? The woman is the energy aspect of the Lord. She plays a supportive role. I don't give a damn how you want to use that word supportive, but she plays a supportive role. And if she plays that role right, everything works. But the woman's out of the home today. Why is she out of the home? Money. Why? Well, I understand. Inflation, right? Do you really need an $80,000 car or a $40,000 car, or a car payment for $1,000 a month and a house payment for $3,000 a month, and credit cards up the gazoo and 50 presents for your kids? Or is it important for you to be there for your kids? I've said it on other videos. Thank God my mother was home. And in my day, the women were home. Interestingly, the men could make a living. Why? Well, because things were so much cheaper. Yeah, but they didn't make that much money either. Everything was relative. But the needs were not as extreme. We didn't have to have the fancy labels all over the place, the $100 tennis shoes. Excuse me, $150. This is 10, 20 years ago we're talking about, with a big name on it. We didn't have to have this. My parents were middle income, and they went through ups and downs, and in some cases, maybe lower income, lower middle income. They struggled. My mother didn't work. Once she got married, she didn't work. She was there for every one of us. Hold on, I got to get this phone out of here. She was there for every person. My mother was a genius. Once she got married, she never again even worked for money. When we grew up, she started working for organizations, but she didn't work for money. But you know what? The men were able to make enough money. Why is that? Because she's the energy aspect of the Lord. Now, I can understand if a woman needs to play a supportive role temporarily, but eventually you get out of the problem and she goes back into the household again. And kids understand this. Divorce, mother's not home, father's not in the home, nobody's paying attention to the kids. What do you expect? And then you take the movie industry, the video industry, the gaming industry, the everything industry. What are they pushing? Violence, violence, violence. And if we don't have violence, nobody's interested anymore because we be desensitized to violence. Doesn't matter. And then what do? There's so many things, folks. I was going to write them down and I figured, well, I'll splice it in if I think about it later, because there's so much that we're doing, excuse the expression, ass backwards. How about medication? Oh, I agree. Some of this stuff is okay, but how about constantly putting a kid on medication? You know, I had a friend of mine, we're sitting in a restaurant one day. This is about 25 years ago or 20 years ago, something like that. And we were laughing at all the side effects. Why would anybody take this crap? But we were laughing because we said one day the side effect could be death. Sure enough, every once in a while you see a medication, side effect could be death. Why would anybody do this? But what's it doing to the mind? It talks about the mind being maybe causing suicides or whatever the heck it is. Whatever it is, everything's out of balance. So the medication's a disaster. Be a parent. Observe your kids. Watch what they're doing. Nobody's home. How stupid can we be? And why are all these things happening? Money, 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 money. And I guarantee you when you die, you're not going to take a dime with you, parent. But your children are learning. And what are we doing to the girl? Oh, mixed league sports. You don't want to play baseball? Too bad. You got to play baseball, girl. League ball, not even softball, which the girls used to have fun with and enjoy. But if you play softball, you can't play softball like a girl. You got to play it hard. You got to be something that you weren't meant to be ever in your life. You got to be converted into a man. I had a daughter. I taught her how to throw a baseball. In those days, girls had fun. We taught them to be competitive. I know women have their problems. They grow up, they be catty, they talk all the time. They're verbal as hell. They're more social animals than we are, but we're pushing them into a place where they don't even want to go. We expect the girls not to go crazy, and then we give them medication. I was at a therapy thing for myself one day when I was learning all this stuff. And I'm sitting next to somebody I'd gone out with one time, single mother with her kid. I figure she's in the therapist's office because she's didn't know what to do with the kids, so she's going into therapy. She had to take him with her. She wasn't there for her. She was there for the kid. Why is it that we keep blaming the kids? She needed to be there, and I wrote right then and there, I wrote a piece down after I finished talking there and shook my head 1,000 times. And I said, the me generation, we're so stuck on ourselves that we think it's the kid that's the problem. The kid is a product of you, folks. And now of this negative environment that we put these kids into. There's got to be some good teachers out there, but many of the teachers that I met, you know why they work? Pension plans, medical insurance. That's why they work. I'm sorry to say that. Terrible. So the girl is pushed into male sports. If you watched one of my videos, these are not sports for girls. They're competitive sports. Now, if you want to play and have fun, that's one thing. But if you're playing competitive sports, then you got to watch the movie on Knute Rockne, the story of him. It's a fabulous story, and everybody should see that movie. Ladies, if you don't want to be in the home, don't get married. If you'd ever made a commitment to play a supportive role, if you ever made that commitment to play a supportive role, to be there for your kids in a supportive role and to be the mother in the home, don't get married. You're not even having protective sex, let alone you don't give a damn. You know how people get married today? They make up a thing. Well, I love you very much, honey. You're the nicest person in the world. And then they say to themselves, well, this doesn't work out. I'll get divorced. You know it's true, don't you? You know, I'm going to talk about religion a lot because religion is not doing its job the way it's meant to, but religion can be wonderful. And some of the things that they talk about, they're right on, but they can't explain it. That's been my search. What the hell is going on here? We've been manipulated, we've been had, so what else can we say? All right, well, do you ever tell your kids, I love you? I had a friend of mine, he couldn't say it to his kids. Why? Because it wasn't programmed in the brain. He couldn't say it, he couldn't get it out. How would you like to be a kid that never heard from their father, I love you? You know why he couldn't say it? It wasn't programmed. You know why it wasn't programmed? Because he never heard it from his parents, especially his father. Never heard it. Can you say I love you to your parents? To your children, I mean? What else is going on? Oh, mixed league sports. I was against mixed league. So anyhow, girls are playing combat sports. That's what Knut Rockne talks about. These are combat sports designed to keep the kid off the street and out of wars. The boy. I watched some of these marches that you see today. You never saw women in these marches. Today, the women are running the marches. The men have become wimps. The women have become so strong that nobody can deal with them. They don't know how to be women anymore. But the woman is the energy aspect of the Lord. And if they lose that, everything collapses. We're pushing the woman and the young girl into all these combat sports to play with the boy. Boy, the same age is, are we proving it? Women, you don't want boys in your sports, men in your sports, transgender, or whatever the hell it is in your sports, do we? Why? Because they're so much stronger. If he kicks the ball at you, he may knock the hell out of you. And I remember that when my grandkids were young, mixed league sports. Boy kicked the ball, I missed her by an inch, would probably taken her head right off her body. Same age. What else can I think of? I'm sure you know too. There's so much. And then we expect everything to be fine. We expect the boys to be fine. Boys don't know how to be boys. Girls don't know how to be girls. My mother's advice, do the best you can. That was my mother's best advice. Do the best you can. Sure, she made some mistakes. Parents make mistakes, but these are not mistakes that we can overcome. I just heard a story about a kid was being tutored. Parents are home, too busy making money, you know. They can pay a tutor a fortune. They can pay people to come there and be with them. They can pay them, but they're not there for their kid. They got plenty of money, fancy home, fancy cars. And the kid's starting to do terrible in school. Well, makes sense to me. We just don't want to address the problems because we've gone way out of whack. We're so out of balance, it's unbelievable. You've got the yin and the yang, you've got the feminine and masculine energy. If the feminine energy is going to go to the masculine's either go to the feminine or the masculine's going to get even stronger. So everybody's going to be a mess. And who's a part of that mess? The child. And who do we blame for all these problems? The child. And who's to blame? Not the child, the parent. The adult in the room, supposed adult in the room. Oh my God, there's so many things to talk about. Religion isn't doing its jobs. Mixed league sports. Is it any wonder that boys think they're girls and girls think they're boys when everybody doesn't know anymore what the heck they are? Does it any wonder? Do we ever really hear about, well, tell me about the child. Tell me about his circumstances at home. You know, I've helped people with nutrition. I've made such a difference in people's lives. If I'm going to deal with a person with nutrition on an individual basis, which I did for a while, what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to go to their home. I'm going to see what they're eating, what they're buying in the supermarket. You don't think the food's messing everybody up? How much yellow dye and red dye and who knows what kind of dye, pretty colored dye can you buy and drink or eat? How many preservatives? What's it doing to us? Has anybody questioned that? Has anybody questioned GMO? Has anybody questioned anything? Listen, I think the vaccines can be very important. But Do we need 20 vaccines or whatever they're giving a baby right away, all at one time? What's it doing to the child? What's going on here? It's obvious, folks. So what do? Kid's no good, put him in jail. Well, maybe he is no good. Maybe he's damaged forever. But why is it happening? You know, I talked about in one of the videos, I believe, about guns. Guns aren't a problem. Maybe they're too easy to get a hold of, but they're not a problem. It's the person that's abusive in their head. And now I see across the news, they may be selling in certain states or in a state vending machine. It looks like bullets. I don't know. It's like, well, you might as well put cigarettes back in a vending machine if you're going to start selling bullets. That makes no sense to me at all. I hope I'm wrong. If that's correct, I mean, if you think materialistic things are ever going to make you happy, folks, you've lost your mind. If you think giving a kid for Christmas 20 presents, or in some cases, believe it or not, a brand new Porsche, if you think that's going to make a child happy, you've lost your mind. And then you say, oh, I don't understand. Why are the kids doing drugs? This is terrible. Why are the kids becoming alcoholics? I can't figure it out. Why are the kids committing suicide? Parents, are you that stupid? Take a look at most of the movies. I don't give a darn whether they're cartoons or not. It's good versus evil. And not only is it good versus evil, then you buy the video of the cartoon, the CD, and you play it 1,000 times. And you're programming your kid's brain to believe that this is it. How are you going to function? The reason I have this behind, and I'm going to mention it again, is the sun is always shining, folks. The sun is the soul, and the sun, the big sun, is the Father. That's my representation, trying to show something. And the miniature suns are identical to the big sun. The light is in here. That's what we're supposed to be learning, how wonderful we are, how smart we are. Instead, what do we teach? We say, well, the money is here, so go into that field even if you're miserable. Oh, I know your gift is being an artist. No, you can't make a living doing that. You better become an engineer and do something that you hate. Oh, doctors make a lot of money, so you should be a doctor. Lie, cheat, and steal, get ahead. That's what we're taught. That's what kids are taught. You know, I was talking about the marriage vows. Marriage is until death do you part if you do a traditional vow. And I know it says cherish and obey. That word obey is really a catastrophe, isn't it? Supportive role would be better, but that's a catastrophe too. But somehow the woman is going to have to understand that she's the energy aspect of the Lord. And if she is no longer using the energy for her family and more for her money-making job and her fancy car and her big home. Oh, by the way, and guys are doing the cooking now because the women don't know how to cook, although she's a nurturer. Men are not nurturers. In my book, The Woman and the Warrior by Yoga Man, it talks about the fact, what's the difference between a guy that cooks at home and a guy that cooks for work? One, he's making money, and the other one, he's a nurturer. At home, he's a nurturer. And you push her out of the kitchen, that's her domain, is the kitchen. Of course, she doesn't know how to cook anymore. Nobody's taught her. All the feminine energy is disappearing out of the woman. It's appearing in the man. But you know what's happening? She's got to go crazy. The soul is eternal, and the soul, truthfully, has no gender. But the physical body does. And while you're here on this earth, you are body, mind, and spirit. And you have to learn how to function as body and mind and understand that the soul is eternal. So that's why I say move into the light. That's what I'm trying to do. If you're in the light, folks, you aren't going to eat the crappy food. You're not going to let the medical profession give you all this junk that they want to without thinking clearly about what you're doing. You're not going to buy a fancy car that you can't afford. You're not going to do it because it's not that important to you to have the fancy car, and you're going to find out what the side effects are of the medication, and you're not going to follow like sheep. I have a guy that I know that was a patient of mine, not a patient, but I help people with yoga, and I really helped him in many cases more than the doctors could help him. But he said to me, people follow like sheep. And I said, you're right. Are you going to be a sheep? Or are you going to stand there with your shoulders back and say, I'm going to do it the way it's supposed to be done? And do you even know what it's supposed to be done anymore? Well, talk to the grandparents or the great-grandparents if they're still alive. They'll tell you the way it's supposed to be done. The problem is they don't know why. It was just done, tradition. You know, I've told you enough things, and I'm sure, like I said, I'll think of more, but you've got the gist of this. When I talk about a Porsche being given to a car, my son used to tell me about a kid in school driving with a brand new Porsche. My dad bought me a car. He was in the car business. He paid $110. The fenders were rusted. The chrome on the car was rusted. The seat the driver's seat was torn. It rattled, and I loved it. My first car. But you know how old I was? I was like 20. My first car. And you know why I had it? I needed to get places. Oh, we also think all these kids are stupid. We treat them like they're idiots. And we also send them to preschool. Oh, you got to go to preschool. You got to be I had a baseball player on my team. I was Little League coach, all boys. Thank God we weren't in mixed league sports. I think what would I have done, truthfully? And he turned out to be a professional athlete, professional ball player. Isn't that interesting? Never came to practice, was always late. If you watch my videos on coaching baseball, he just had the talent, folks. I didn't teach him a damn thing. I said to him, how come you don't come to practice on time? He was busy playing for his school team basketball or his other league basketball, and basketball hadn't ended yet. He was playing all these sports. If it wasn't for my son, I wouldn't know. I know exactly who he was. He was only like 10 years old when I coached him. Turned out to be a professional ball player. We're trying to make all these kids professionals. Professional what? professionally unhappy children, professionally unhappy adults. All right. The woman is the energy aspect of the Lord. The male is the provider, protector. The woman is the nurturer and nest builder. I've done videos on this. When she gets involved in your role or you get involved in her role, it starts to cause short circuiting. You think that she is helping you. I've got a book, one of the best yoga books you will ever read, because it's basically a synopsis of everything. And in that book, he talks about women, and you may not like it all. It's called Bliss Divine. Believe me, if you do yoga, definitely get it. By Swami Shivananda. It's excerpts of his discussions. In there, he talks about the woman, and he's never left India, but he talks to the women of India, and he says, don't buy into what is happening in the West. He says it's going to be a disaster. He says it'll break the four walls of the home and eventually lead to social decay. The Achilles heel of this country is the woman is way out of whack. She has left the home when she doesn't need to. She is being forced into a position by her parents that she doesn't want to go. She is being coached originally, when I watched this start to happen, by men, but now by women that have turned into men. She has been coached to be competitive when she has never been competitive in her life, not in this way. And she has broken the four walls of her home, and everybody is suffering. Women, the male makes the money to take care of his family, and if he needs to, he will have 2 and 3 jobs if necessary to make sure that his family is taken care of. But if you don't play your role, it all falls apart. Did I help anybody here? Did I make a difference in anybody's life? And you can't take it with you? No matter how hard you try, that fancy car in the driveway, I guarantee you, will get old. Just like you're going to get old. And I guarantee you that one day, all the money in the bank, all the fancy homes and the fancy cars and the fancy clothes and the fancy insignia on your clothes and the fancy this and the fancy that, and you know what's going to happen? You can't take it with you. Materialistic things just make businesses have a better bottom line. All right. Now that I gave you this day to listen to and think about, remember to always walk in beauty. Think about what I said. If you don't pass this on to people, then I'm crazy. This is going to keep going, folks, until we start to move in the other direction. It's going to keep going. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. You can't suppress it. It's going to keep exploding. It's like a volcano that you can't hold back. No matter how many police you have on the streets, no matter what you do, you can't hold it back because we're living our life ass backwards. Love you a lot. Tell your friends, follow, join, share, raise some hell, tell your kids. And give your kids a hug and tell them you love them. See you in the next video. I got other videos. I can't even put them out. This stuff gets so crazy. And before Christmas, this has to be put out. Thanks, folks. Follow, join, share, like, raise hell with me, complain, but tell your friends anyhow. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.